Hey, everybody. Welcome to Arcane Wednesday for November 25th, 2020. I'm your host, DM Gallibond. All right, today we're going to talk about an extremely useful spell that has undergone changes over the editions. 5th edition, we have a spell called Continual Flame. Now, back in the day, we used to have Continual Light. And let me tell you a little story from my days of playing D&D back in the early days. One of the things that we would always do is we would cast Continual Light on coins. And we would do different things with those coins because Continual Light is a low-level spell. Some blacksmiths would create a tube that had kind of a mirror on the inside, and we would affix the coin to the back of the tube and have a cap that would go over the front of the tube. And when we got to an area where we wanted to have light, we would pull the cap off and the light would spill out of the tube and you could point it around. And we thought we were so clever because we had flashlights. The other thing we would sometimes do is we would sometimes, and characters once they got to a certain level, they would have multiple continual light coins. We would sometimes take a continual light, or take a coin, cast continual light on it, and then auger a hole through it and put a thread, a fine thread of silk or something like that through it. And then we could use that, like if we got to a well and we wanted to see what's down in a well. Now you just take your continual light coin and you start feeding it out and it goes down the well and you can see what's down there. Well, one of my characters had a brilliant idea one time. We were on a mission and there was a lagoon out there. And as we were preparing, I was the only one who rolled high enough on my, I think back in those days it was called a spot check as opposed to a perception check. But I was the only one who rolled high enough on spot check to notice ripples out in the lagoon. What's that? So I said, all right, and I thought, my character has boots of water walking. So I took my boots of water walking, I strode out onto the lagoon, and I was like, DM is like, yeah, it's really dark. Okay, so I look around, no moonlight, no. Okay, hey, I've got a continual light coin on a string. So I'm going to take the continual light coin, and I'm going to play it out, and I'm going to let it go down in the water, let it go down in the water. He says, okay, it goes down 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet, and now it's illuminating the inside of a gigantic mouth that is swimming up at you. I was like, oh, crap. So, back in the day, using continual light in that way could get you into trouble if you weren't thinking of all of the potential consequences before you used it. All right, so that's a story that an old tale from an old D&D game that I always remember and that I always chuckle when I think about it. All right, so let's go and take a look at how continual light / continual flame have evolved over the years and what this spell is really all about. Okay, in original D&D, actually, in all the editions that it's appeared, it has been a spell that's available to both clerics and wizards or magic users. Back in the day, it was called magic users. And in original D&D, it was available at 3rd level for clerics, but at 2nd level for magic users. So it creates a permanent sphere of light 60 feet across. Creates light as bright as day. The spherical volume of a 30-foot radius lasts until dispel magic or continual darkness. Creatures penalized in bright daylight suffer the same penalties of the spell. The spell is cast on opponent's eyes. The victim must make a saving throw versus spells or be blinded until the effect is removed. May be cast on an area, upon an object, or on a person or creature. Can also be cast directly on a person or a creature's eyes, thus blinding them. And it's a reversible spell, so it's continual darkness, and that has pretty much the same rules, same volume, but it's an area of total darkness, and not even infravision or torchlight can penetrate it. It just is an inky thing, and of course, if you cast it on somebody's eyes, you're going to blind them too, as well as put them in the center of a 30-foot radius globe of complete and utter darkness, which would be kind of terrifying. And that is the spell. So you see how where we got the idea is because that you could cast it on an object. So oh yeah, well we'll just cast it on a coin. Yeah, silver piece, copper piece, gold piece, whatever. Once you're high enough level that you have access to these spells, it's like having a really shiny gold piece is, that's chump change. All right, so Player's Handbook in first edition, Continual Light. This once again is third level for clerics, second level for magic users. And spell is similar to a light spell, except that it lasts until negated by a continual, and its brightness is very great, being nearly as illuminating as full daylight. Can be cast in the air on an object or a creature. In the third case, continual light affects the space about 1 foot behind the creature if the latter makes a saving throw. So that's an important thing that original D&D did not stipulate. If you try to cast it on a creature and they make their saving throw, instead of being on their eyes, it's like 1 foot behind their head. That's where the spell goes off, and it's just that point in the air. Well, now that point has continual light on it. And it will blind a creature successfully cast on the visual organs. And its reverse causes complete absence of light. So, yeah. Light or darkness, continual light, continual darkness. Second edition, pretty much the same as first edition. It does specify that it talks about blinding creatures and putting it on objects and everything like that. Does specify that continual light brought into an area of magical darkness is temporarily negated so that otherwise prevailing light conditions exist in overlapping areas of effect. Direct casting of continual light against similar or weaker magical darkness cancels both. So it will cancel the darkness and cancel the continual light. Then in third edition, this is where it changed from continual light to continual flame. A flame equivalent in brightness to a torch. Now this is also important. Remember how the continual light was as bright as daylight and it could blind you. This is as bright as a torch. It springs forth from an object that you touch. The effect looks like a regular flame, but it creates no heat and doesn't use oxygen. Continual flame can be covered and hidden, but not smothered or quenched. Light spells counter and dispel darkness spells of an equal or lower level. So you sprinkle, yes. So this is Cleric level 3, Sorcerer Wizard level 2. Okay, so it just basically simplifies it to flame, and basically it's like a magical torch. And in 5th edition, it pretty much follows the same rules as 3rd edition. It's a 2nd level spell, however, for clerics, wizards, and artificers. Its touch, and a flame equivalent to a brightness of a torch springs forth from the object you touch. Effect looks like a regular flame, but it creates heat and doesn't use oxygen, can be covered or hidden but not smothered or quenched. and ruby dust worth 50 gold pieces, which the spell consumes. So, because it's a permanent spell, yes, it does require a gold piece um, value material component. That I think what that is that's just to get away from the kind of things that we used to do back in the day, where you willy nilly you'd like toss the continual light on a coin, and then you just like flip it down a well. Okay, well, now there's a glowing coin at the bottom of that well for the rest of time. Whatever, or until something comes along and eats it, or until it gets swallowed up or covered up by sludge or detritus or something like that. All right, well, that is going to do it for our discussion of Continual Flame. I have been DM Gallibond. This has been Arcane Wednesday. If you like what we're doing on the channel, please subscribe, like the video, share the video, click that post notification bell so that you get notified every time a new video hits the channel. And in the description, you can find all of the social media platforms where I am, and you can find out how to follow the actual play streams that I run, the D&D games that I run every week over on my Twitch channel. And with that, I want to thank everybody for coming today. Hope we will see you back next week. Hope we see you watching more content on the channel. Take care, everyone, and good night.